So in this conveyancing Q&A, we wanted to discuss fraud restrictions and how careful should conveyancers be.
Yeah, absolutely, Stu. So everyone will know, hopefully conveyancers will know, that for a few years now, the Land Registry has sort of put out the Form LL restriction, which if anybody's that bothered, they can find in Practice Guide 19, the Land Registry Practice Guide 19. So properties, buy-to-let properties, empty properties, probates, properties with no mortgages, where the clients are overseas. So really any property where the client doesn't live there. The Land Registry put out its Form LL restriction, which you can get on the register by using a Form RQ. And just to be really boring, I'll remind everybody that in essence, the Form LL restriction says, and I quote, no disposition transaction is to be registered without a certificate signed by the conveyancer. That the conveyancer is satisfied that the person who executed the document submitted for registration effectively is the same.
Person,
So you're being asked, acting for the seller, to confirm that the seller is the person who signed the transfer. That's the nub of it. So what's your issue with it, Stu?
Well, my issue, first and foremost, is I'm not sure that law firms have adopted the restriction in the way that it was originally meant to be, insofar as I think all and sundry have them. Where we do look at these, we speak to people that simply live in their properties that just want to remortgage, for example. It's not always people that may be, potentially more of a victim in terms of fraud than somebody living in their properties. So we just see everybody with them. And I think that maybe firms generically tell people that, this is a good idea to do this. But of course, we talk about fraud a lot now. And, how can you give this certificate as a conveyancer? How do you actually know that person is the person that actually owns the property? Joe Bloggs, Fred Smith, change of name deeds.
Yeah, I think the interesting point there, Stu, is that lots of firms will suggest at the point of purchase, do you want to put this anti-fraud restriction on the register, without thinking about the consequence when the property is sold, i.e., will the conveyancer acting on the sale be prepared to give the certificate? And if they're not prepared to give it, that might hold the sale up. And as I say,
or the refinance is going to come up in a couple of years. But majority of the time, you're talking probably a 2-year flip, aren't you? With discount rates ending, it's normally going to be around that 2-year mark that it's going to come up straight away. Clients have got to pay a fee as well, I'm assuming, for a lawyer to actually look at this.
Well, if the lawyer's prepared to charge for it, I suppose. I have to say, I think it comes down to an assessment of risk by the firm acting for the proprietor at the time, whether it's on the remortgage or whether it's on the sale.
So would you do it?
If the client was instructing me, for example, on the sale, and I was doing my due diligence on the sale, and I didn't have any doubts about the client and who they were, and I'd gone through the due diligence hoops that I would be taking on, then yes, I would, because I wouldn't. I'd take the view that I'm in no worse position giving that certificate than, for example, the confirmation that I'm giving to the other side anyway. Via the code for completion by post. That I'm acting for the seller, the true seller, because of course with the whole dream van thing.
Absolutely.
So I suggest I'm in no worse position, but I think the issue it comes down to an assessment of risk by the firm acting on the transaction /sale.
So what about if you're sitting there and you get a new instruction come through, it's not a sale that you're already dealing with, and somebody asks, can you give this certificate to this client? And it's a separate firm acting on the sale. What then?
I'm really sorry, Stu. I don't understand the context. Don't understand what you're asking me.
So have you never had that before, where you'll get a client come through that needs that certificate, where the firm that's acting on their sale will not give that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
They're the high risk.
I understand
that I worry about. Yeah,
and of course the classic example there, and I'm going to say it, is of course it's often the large volume remortgage firms who are dealing on the remortgages who aren't prepared to give those certificates, and they have the cheek to say to the client, go to your local high street firm to get the certificate. In that case, absolutely no way.
How can you profile that client? When they're just walking in the door, for example.
Absolutely wouldn't. Plus the fact, apart from the profile issue, apart from the risk issue, apart from the fact that the client doesn't want to pay me the fees, why should I make that big firm Make it easier for them
Yeah.
to do the remortgage for £250.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I wouldn't be prepared to do it. So no, I understand the question. I just think on a non remortgage question,
Yeah.
the issue then is it's a matter of assessment of risk for the seller's solicitor or the seller's licensed conveyancer. Are you in any worse position than saying to the other side, I'm acting for the seller? I suspect no. I think the key point for conveyancers when they're acting on a sale or a remortgage, unlikely that the latter would be, is look at the register really early. Sounds really obvious. Is there that fraud restriction on there? And if you're not prepared to act, well, bail out early.
Early doors, exactly. Always the best way, of course.
Yeah. So it's look at the documentation really early, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope everyone's found that useful.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks, Stu.